Yeah, I'm going to record this part at least, so we have little people want to see a half hour or something of the round robin part of our show. They will get a chance to see it. So, Per, you are on.
Okay. Well, I may have mentioned at some time in the past that uh, my first exposure to anything to do with radio, other than watching Jack Benny and Gangbusters many years ago, was that when I was 10 years old, I had a radio that could receive a couple of amateur bands. And I can't remember whether it was the 160 meter and the 80 meter or the 80 meter and the 40 meter. Anyway, on the longer of those two bands were the old guys who had wound their coils around Quaker Oats cylindrical boxes and made everything absolutely by themselves. But on the next higher band were guys who had been in the Army or the service and as radio operators. And when they finished, they went over to Radio Row or the Army Navy Stir, wherever they happened to be, and they bought equipment similar to what they had been working with. So at that time, I heard words like ARC-5, which stands for ARC-5 transmitter and receiver, and 807, which is a power tube that was a transmitting power tube. And that was about it for me at that time. But I so remembered the that whole situation that recently when COVID came along and I rekindled my interest in things having to do with amateur radio, I ended up, first thing I ended up doing was going and finding this ARC-5 on eBay.
Wow.
And I had already looked at, I can't remember his name, a guy who has many YouTubes giving all kinds of information about how to get these things running. And he said, unfortunately, the one you get is likely to have been largely massacred by previous people owning it. Well, when I saw this one on eBay, where on the side of it, I don't know if you can see this or not, it says ARC-5.
Yeah.
I said to myself, this looks like one that never ended up getting sold to anybody who did anything with it. So I bought it, and sure enough, it's totally original. It goes from 7 megacycles to 9.1 megacycles. It's a band, a 40 meter band. And I haven't up to date done anything with it except looking at it. I've been more involved with some old radios, but in any case, you know, the moment there was the mention of bringing some kind of military thing to today's meeting, I thought, okay, the ARC-5 comes off the shelf. Now I have one other question to ask of Tom. I have something I want to mail to you. How can I get your postal address?
It's pretty straightforward. Box 122.
Box 122.
Hancock, Vermont. 05748.
05748.
You've got it. And that Arc 5 is absolutely beautiful. That was one of my first transmitters. It has a beautiful 807 in the final. And with a little bit of tweaking, you can make it into a VFO. They're wonderful transmitters. And having one that hasn't been messed with is a real joy. I imagine, Per, that you also had experiences with these, because these were available for $5 on Radio Row back when you're talking about the BC 611 walkie-talkie. And as kids, we used to buy these things. We just got our ham license and we'd talk to each other with these things. But the big disappointment was they only have a range of about maybe 200 yards, because
Yeah, as you were talking about.
the military purposely detuned them. It's a beautiful 5.2 superhet receiver, but they detuned them because they knew the GIs in the field would be giving away intelligence to the Germans who'd be listening in. And so these beautiful radios would only talk about that distance, no matter whether John Wayne is on one mountaintop talking to someone else in a movie. That's all hooey, as we said back then.
Right, right. Again, more creative license, right, Tom?
And I could also mention some months ago, there was a mention of people also having another technology-oriented hobby. And for me, that hobby is old cars. So
I saw the Hudson.
Here on the screen, you can see a Hudson. That particular Hudson was restored by the club to the Hudson Essex Terraplane Club to drive around to different parts of the country. But I have two Hudsons myself, one of which is rather similar to this, and the other of which is considerably older than this.
Oh,
What year, Per? And are those flathead engines or overhead?
Oh yes, my 35 is an eight-cylinder flathead engine.
Yeah.
And my 49 was originally an 8-cylinder engine, but when the owner stored it away in a shed 50 years ago, 60 years ago now, I've owned it for 10 years, she forgot to drain the water out of the engine.
oh.
So I ended up putting a 6-cylinder Hudson engine in that is an exact fit. In fact, most of the 49s actually had 6-cylinder engines. A relatively small number had the 8.
Was that a straight 8 pair?
Straight 8.
Okay.
Now, in
Yeah,
those days, they put freeze plugs in the engines, which were supposed to get them through a freeze up. Did you check to see whether your freeze plugs had popped on that thing, or did it crack something badly?
Well, all I know is when I took the drain plug out, quart after quart of a substance that more resembled water mixed with oil than anything else came out. And that was basically it. We still tried, we took off the pan, but the inside of the bottoms of the pistons and the bores and everything were so thoroughly rusted.
yeah.
That, and since the engine was basically somehow cracked, there was no sense continuing with it. And at first I acquired a couple of 8-cylinder engines, but time was running out because my author friend, Dan McNichol, who had written a book called The Roads That Built America, a very interesting book if you happen to like automotive history, because he goes all the way back to George Washington surveying the Lincoln Highway or some highway. And anyway, he had gotten money for us to make a trip around the country where I would keep the car running and he would keep his mouth running by giving lectures to various things like Civil Engineering Society and other things like that. So we had a deadline, and eventually we sacrificed his 1951 Hudson that he had used some years before on a book tour for that book. And we put that engine, 6-cylinder engine and overdrive transmission into the car. But with the overdrive transmission, and that particular engine was the shortest stroke of the 3 engines that Hudson made with the same block, we could travel comfortably at 65 or 70 without hurting or running the engine too fast. So, so the car has taken, since our initial trip in 2003 and 2004, the 49's initial trip, then again in 2000, did I say 2004? I meant 2013, 14. Then again, 2015, the 49 with its current setup has been across the country and circled around twice. And the engine and transmission in the other car had also done the same thing twice. So it's been quite a history of fun driving of those cars.
That Lincoln Highway, I drove it in 1956, Route 66, and
Is
it
that
was
right?
it was spectacular back then. There were all these roadside weird things. They had a trained bear in front of one of the diners, as though that was going to bring people in, bring in business.
Well, I first drove across the country in 1956, going from New York to Denver because I got a job as a student trainee engineering at the Denver Federal Center. And so I drove a 48 Plymouth that I acquired because it had been in a little accident for $25. And then there I met a friend. We roomed together that summer. He was also there for the same program. And by the end of the summer, I no longer had the Plymouth, which I had driven a little bit too fast. That wasn't good for its engine.
Yeah,
But I had bought a 31 Chevy, and he had bought a 26 Buick. And we ended up him towing me with the 30 with the Chevy with the Buick all the way back to New York City.
Wow.
Wow.
And so then we applied to go to work again the next summer, and we wanted to go to Alaska, but they said, well, the closest we can get you to Alaska is the Grand Coulee Dam in the state of Washington. So my friend Paul, this time he bought a Packard hearse, a 39 Packard hearse.
Nice.
And we used the tow bar that we already had from the previous year, and we should have towed a smaller car, but we towed my 1928 Packard all the way out to the state of Washington.
Holy smokes.
We lived on the municipal campsite there in the hearse, and somebody then donated a little sleeping cabin for a trailer for one of us to sleep in. And we drove the 28 Packard locally during the summer. By the end of the summer, somehow we had acquired 2 more Packards.
Wow.
A 36 Packard hearse and a 37 Packard sedan. So on our return trip, we had 2 towing combinations. And recently I was reading an article about how those cars could be quite hard to start when you turned them off after driving them along the highway. But we had the secret. The secret was start up the towed car to give the first one a push to get it running again.
That's awesome.
So,
So
so,
anyway.
so the next question is, Per, when did you guys open up the funeral parlor
That's right.
to go with the hearses? We should
Well,
have got your license.
we have a lot of car collectors in this group, so I'm sure everybody's appreciating vicariously living through that with you.
Well, I can just say that the 28 Packard was my first car, and I have it parked about a block away from here.
That's great.
That is your first car. Wow.
Yeah. And my 35 Hudson, I bought in 1962, and I still have that car, as well as the 49, which is only 10 years in my ownership.
Well, that twin H power put them on the map in the 50s, that's for sure.
It sure did. It sure did. But I feel like writing a little article because somebody had written an article in the very last issue of the Hudson Club magazine talking about exchanging engines and putting in more powerful engines. And I need to write and say that we did the opposite. We put in the weakest of the engines, but boy, could we go fast
There you go.
without screwing up the engine.
That's right. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Putting 4-tube chassis in Zenith Waltons, huh?
I could also say that I just finished finally repairing the Colonial Princess Model 33 AC radio that I briefly mentioned several weeks ago, because I mentioned it because of its unique volume control, where the 4 RF transformers, the one coil rotates in and out of the other coil.
Yes.
And it's a very complex device, but boy, it sure is not scratchy when you turn that volume control because you're just coupling with air.
All right. That's a unique radio.
Yeah. Well, that's about it for me.
Thank you, Per.
Great. That was a great story, Per.
Thank you.
All right. I got something.
Who
Anybody
we
else have an item,
I know.
a story to share?
I
A
know.
little open forum.
I know, Rob. You had something you wanted to show.
Yes, I'll share screen. It's okay.
Absolutely. Let me just enable it. Sorry. You are a go.
All right. Ooh. Did that come through?
Yes. Here we go.
Okay, good. All right, this is the collection of stuff over many years. This ARC 1 I actually picked up when I was in high school. The audio generator was from a yard sale. The scope was from one of our meets. This voltmeter was from Yuma. This one was from a meet. This one was from Lambrick Surplus outside of Detroit around 1970, just an antenna. And then the World War I headset also was from one of our meets.
Actually, I'm not sure if it's me, but Rob, all I see is text.
Yeah, that's text.
Oh,
Here's
okay.
one.
Oh, here we go. Okay. No, that's fine. I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure it wasn't me. Okay.
No, and the interesting thing about this old radio is it has the Collins auto tune.
Oh.
Basically, what you do is you loosen these T handles, and then a technician will tune it. Put it in a meter and read what he wants and all that. Then he tightens them down, and that would be like on channel 2. And I don't have the control box, but the control box just was in the cockpit, and they could just turn, a switch to whatever channel, and it would go all the way around to it. So,
Interesting.
and the crystals, this thing is 100 megahertz to 150 megahertz VHF AM transceiver. And I don't think these crystals came with it at all. But if there's some multiple of those frequencies that get into that range, it just might work. Let's see. That's what it looks like out of the skin.
Oh, okay.
A dynamo in the back to generate the voltages, and transmitter, receiver section, and you can see a little bit of the Collins auto tune there. And that's the ugly part of it underneath. I have not powered this up since the 70s, so I'll get to it one of these days. There's the dynamometer, a 26 volt input, 360 and 310 intermittent. I don't know why they did that, but continuous 360 at 0.135 amps. We're running this beastie. Now, I was told this was used in a Corsair. One of my first job out of college, there was a coworker there that was telling me about these, and he used to repair them. And he was telling me what goes wrong with them, but that's just long gone. Here's the drive motor for the Collins Auto Tune.
So you're saying this is World War II Corsair?
Yes, I believe so. But see,
Interesting.
that's just word of mouth. I don't have any documentation to show it.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
only have one good 832A. I bought one off of eBay, but a pin, it's an acorn. It's a very large acorn tube, and one of the pins got snapped in shipping.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
and there's my signal generator from a yard sale, I think in Groton. And it was kind of fun to get going. This is an interesting thing here. You turn on the frequency meter, and when you hit 60 cycles, this little thing here starts vibrating like crazy. And again at 400 cycles. So I guess it could be used for generating power, maybe. Yeah, see, output 20 to 20.
Taffet radio and television.
Yeah, does that mean anything to anybody?
I just can't say I've ever heard of Taffet radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very unique.
Oops.
Nice piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the shipboard oscilloscope. I did buy this at one of the NEARC meets, and I recapped just the power supply, I believe. And what's kind of nice is it has this hood on it. You pull the hood out and you can see the contrast. You can really see get a good view.
Oh, yeah.
John, on that comment you just made, there were a lot of equipment just built by small companies under contract that you wouldn't ever know the name of. So that I wouldn't be surprised that that was built by, you know, a little place in Springfield that had a government contract.
Interesting.
This is the top. You see there's the horizontal amp, horizontal gain, and the sweep, vertical amp, sync circuit. The internal syncing works okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, the sweep.
Beautifully modular and very easy to work on.
Well, it's tight inside. I can tell you that. They really packed a lot in there. Yeah, maybe this is another one, a Jetronic. If you look up the oscilloscope OS8C/U, they were made by, I can't remember which company, but it was a large manufacturer. And this one is Jetronic.
Yeah.
And here's the function generator going to the oscilloscope for what it's worth.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what for what era do you think is that the same like World War II or thereabouts era?
I really don't know. I don't think so though. It's possible.
I would think it's probably newer, but I'm wondering.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be newer by much.
Right.
They usually put the date right on the label. I missed it. Can you go back to the label?
Sure.
Yeah, and the 1,000 hertz operation
No.
was probably for aircraft, which are normally 400 hertz. So AC, so that could be part of it. This is 50 to 1,000.
Serial number 59, so we didn't have too many of them. Okay. And here's the multimeter. I just couldn't pass up. It works. It needs a very weird battery. So it does not have the weird battery, but the rest of it seems to work okay. And it is ME297/U. And the interesting thing is here's one I picked up at one of our meets. And it also is a 297/U. The first one is ME-297, and this one is TS-297. So maybe 297 designates a voltometer. And this is a weird, this antenna I got from the surplus place. I don't know what it would connect to, but there's the badge that's on it, AN22A, 20 feet.
Huh.
Yeah, I've never really spread it out, but take their word for it. This must clip onto an insulator because it looks like it's direct. Well, I'm not sure.
Huh.
And lastly, I bought this at one of our meets also. The tag says it's a World War I headset. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So, okay, I will,
Oh, that was great. Some
Thank you.
unusual pieces there, Rob.
thanks. But now, how do I get back?
Ah, I can do that, take care of that for you. There you go.
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you. Anybody else have something they want to show that's military? Oh, I think I see something
Oh,
behind
yeah.
Tom Pereira.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist the old Enigma sitting here. I'll just do a quick demonstration. When you press a key, like the letter P over here, a light bulb lights up. Can you see the letter
Oh, yeah.
lighting up? And I becomes the Enigma coded version of the letter P. But the beauty of the Enigma is that if you push the letter P again, a different light bulb lights up, in this case, the letter X. And again, and it's a different one and a different one and a different one, and the sequence goes on. So really all we're looking at is a doggone flashlight, a battery, a switch, and a light bulb, but it does a little bit more than that. So
Yeah.
so much for
does.
Enigmas.
No, it had to be unpredictable in that regard. Otherwise, it's been useless. That is really neat.
Yeah.
That is really neat. Wow.
Where did you find that one, Tom?
Oh, let me see. This one came out of a basement in Germany.
Is that the one, as I recall, you had showed, is that one that's almost in nearly pristine condition originally?
No, it was, this one was in some water at one point.
Oh, I see.
It had to be typically when they're in water, the wooden case starts to rot out from under it, and
Yeah.
it develops some rust in there. But it's not really a hassle for a ham radio person to clean them out.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's neat. Very cool.
John, I got something, but I just wondered, probably everybody has a little box or a cup on their desk or bench where they put things. And sometimes 6 months, a year later, they look. And I have a cup on my desk, which I was just staring at, and I'll let you know what's in it. Okay, the first thing is a 1-volt tube, because about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was doing some work on a transoceanic and finding some tubes for a friend of mine in Long Island. This is the cup. I mean, it's genuine.
Yeah.
It was just sitting on my desk. There is a phone jack.
Very nice.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's something a little more modern. It's a for a 9-volt coaxial connection. It's a terminal block that you put your wire in, and then you can now plug in any kind of a 3.5 millimeter type jack. And so
Sure.
here's the jack. This happens to be an adapter. Okay, so it just happened to be a pair, and I just put it in there. And here, everybody might recognize this. It's an NT, N connector T. Just sitting in this cup. Okay, the next thing, I empty the cup out. Oops, it just dropped something on the floor.
That looked like a small cup for all this stuff, Adrian.
Yeah.
It is only, yeah, it's only a small one because my desk has got many cups on it.
There you go.
It's a 9-pin DB9 chassis connector. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Never
It
can
was in
tell
there.
when you're going to need one.
Yeah, and this is a regular phono plug. I was doing some audio work at our synagogue. I put in a mixer, and
Sure.
I had a whole load of plugs. So I must have dropped one on the floor and picked it up and put it in this cup. So I challenge any of you to look on your bench and see if you have a cup or a box full of junk. Because
That's
there's
almost,
many other things on my desk anyway.
Oh, it looks like we have got a couple of people, huh?
inevitably.
Do not use written on it, of course.
The trouble is the box full of junk fills up and it becomes a drawer full of junk, and then 2 drawers
Right.
full
Got
of
those
junk.
too.
And you just never seem to get around to sorting it out, and it just grows and sits there.
Yeah, and this is only my office desk. My bench downstairs is even worse.
Once in a while though, you will get, some fit takes over and you start to go through that stuff. I remember one nice summer day once, I actually took a huge 20 by 20 plastic tarp, and I think I took every tool, not necessarily tools for radio, but tools that I have, laid them all out, sorted them all out by size, organized them, then made, different boxes that I would say, well, I'll use this one for this type of project, this one for this. I mean, I've never done it again, but I have no idea what possessed me other than the fact it wasn't too humid, and it just had, at one point something snapped, it had, because it was getting frustrating not knowing, where all the stuff was, essentially, is what probably drove me to it. But I have a little bit better command now, not much.
And you still can't find that tool you put in there.
I'm still looking for the Allen wrench. Yes.
I'd like to thank Adrian for making this kind of thing normal.
There you go. The secrets are coming out of our group here.
The problem is when the stuff shows up on bureaus and medicine chests and
That's right.
gets near food
kitchen
preparation areas. Yes, that could be a problem.
That's right.
What was that crunchy thing?
That's right. Your bathroom cup, you find there's a few tubes in there. But that's funny.
Any other items anybody would wish to share?
Yeah. I had a question. Can I show something that's not military?
Of course.
Okay. I need some help. I recently picked up a box of stuff, and this was there. It has SO 239s. It says line insulator sold by Radio Works, which is still in business, but they don't sell these anymore. And I believe it's as I said, a line insulator. And I believe it's something regarding RFI, as far as I could tell.
Maybe low pass filter, possibly.
Yeah, I think so, but it has to do with skin effects or something.
I know what it is.
Okay, great.
It's a line isolator, okay?
Isolator.
I've got a couple of them in my station here, and what it does, you're on the right track with RFI to eliminate RF in the shack. What it does is, if you open it up, all it is a continuous piece of coax from one of those SO239s to the other with a bunch of ferrites on them. So what it's supposed to do is eliminate the common mode currents on the coax, and it does it pretty well.
Okay, great. The only other thing I have here, and it's very low tech, I get excited over ridiculous small things. I was at a yard sale the other day, and I saw this box there. It's an old Leviton box.
Yeah, sure.
Very old, doesn't have a zip code. It doesn't have a zone either. But in here was a dozen new old stock Leviton AC plugs.
Hey, how can you go wrong?
Yeah, and I mean, for a few dollars, I mean, it's not a bad deal.
No.
New old stock, with the, everything. So I got excited over this.
Cord. They go nice on a cloth cord.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. And it's either plastic or Bakelite. But as I said, there's like a dozen of them in here, and for a few dollars, it was a nice find.
All right.
And let's see what. I guess that's really it.
Oh, that's cool though.
You can add those to the drawer with all the other stuff.
Right, but thank you for the information on the line isolator.
Came to the right
Appreciate
place.
that.
That could be a good topic, John, some night, like they used to do on This Old House, that somebody would present an item
Oh,
and ask for the group, what do you use this thing for?
Right.
We could have some
The
fun with
mystery, you mean the mystery device? It's
Yes.
up to the group. It's the head.
Yeah,
the
it could be
stumper.
instead of what's my line, what's my
that. Yeah,
thing.
well,
That's
you could try to
a
goof
great
on the
great
audience too.
great
You know, you
idea.
may make fun of us if we don't understand.
Right.
You know that it's really something to make toast. You know, and has nothing to do with radio.
Well, I'm sure we could come up with what's the most unusual item in your collection or the most obscure.
Yeah, like
We may
like
we may not have enough hours in the day for those. I'm
like a
sure.
mono or dual boffilator, so we can make something up even,
There you go.
That's
or a
right.
Finnegan coil. I know it's all that stuff. All right, well, thank you.
Oh, that was great.
Thank you, John.
A flux capacitor.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else to share to show? It's about 8:30, so we've had a good run tonight.
Yeah, no, it was actually.
I hope everybody enjoyed Jason. A little bit different for our Zoom, but something to break up the summer.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
name
it was super.
The name of his book again?
Name of the book is The Woman Who Smashed Codes.
All right, thank you.
And when I got into when I first started reading this whole Colonel Fabian thing and Riverbank, and I mean it's as if it's a Disney production at some point, and for then to see this woman decoding stuff to feed to the authorities to essentially help defunct the German spy network in South America is just thoroughly remarkable achievement and amazing woman.
Well, it looks like a good read, and he certainly, Jason did just a really stellar job with just, had a very nice way of just presenting his thoughts. So it looks like it'll translate to a good read. Certainly,
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I mean, one of the other reasons that I liked it, there's all types of references in here. Barbara Tuchman's books come up. Operation Drumbeat comes. There's a lot of very good works that somehow get woven into this. So he's a pretty well-read guy. And in general, even though I've read books or bought them on a topic I would like, by some more recent authors, they don't have a gift with the words. It doesn't do something for me. And I find myself reading something that I should really enjoy that somehow I don't. He has a great gift for language, and in a society that's very short message, bullet point, text oriented, to be able to sit down and kind of get lost in a book for a few hours and really enjoy the prose is a treat. So he's got a gift, and hopefully he writes something else fun that we would like to read, because we'll be greedy, but hopefully he picks a topic that's close to us.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, look, wait, we got Lou.
Yes.
He's going to walk down the catwalk wearing this latest in
This is that Sylvania Repair. I don't know if you can see the label.
Yes, we can.
That's quite.
This is my Sylvania smock I got with the full length. It's a bench smock. I
Sure
guess
it is.
call it.
That's a handsome piece and a nice
That's
color.
awesome.
That came along with that Sylvania wall clock I was telling you earlier about.
Wow.
I guess it's from the 50s.
You did well.
And then there was a bunch of these Sylvania coins. They're little,
interesting, like green,
like a poker chip.
Yeah.
And
A
they're
little marketing device. Does it have a number on it, like for a shop or
no,
a
it
store?
just says it's a Sylvania. I don't have my glasses on. A Sylvania chip that radio television service on one side, and it says it's a let's see, a premium token, whatever the hell that was for. So
Well, that was probably something the guy who wore your coat would give some little kid at the house when he went to repair the TV.
Yeah,
say, hey,
maybe
get away from me, kid. Go play with this. You're bothering me.
Another of them you get at 5U4 or something. I don't know. But
you
yeah,
get a free tube test with a defective tube and 5 tokens.
This guy was a Sylvania. He was a GE engineer, and he also had a Sylvania repair business
That's great.
that he ran himself, and I got a Hickok 539 tube tester and Hickok 600 and the clock and this jacket and a few other goodies.
Well, the nice
So-
thing is it's in pretty good shape, because a lot of times I've seen,
Yeah.
especially on eBay, you see some of these jackets and
Yeah,
stuff guys would wear hats, and it's, nasty,
Pretty
old,
trashed out.
willowy,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This
fuzzy.
one's
That looks
That looks
brand
pretty
new.
cool.
okay.
Well, that's nice. Good find there, Lou. And
Yeah.
like that
The
radio.
hardware store look. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't know if anyone had taken a look at the link that Jason had put in the chat, but that newsletter on the Substack, if you take a look at the, there's a, say I want to take a look at this thing before I sign up. He mentions that there's a PBS documentary that he was interviewed on for around Elizabeth.
Oh,
that
interesting.
should be available on PBS. So
Hmm.
I just thought you guys might want to take a look at that. Just pass it on.
Yeah, in fact, I saved the link off on my notepad so that I could drop it into the to an email to everybody in case they didn't get a chance to see. Unfortunately, we'll not be able to meet Jason via our Zoom meeting, but they will be able to do so by looking at the link and then going to the. Well, I think he mentioned might have been American Experience. Did you
Yes,
say?
yes. There was a Channel 2 program somebody had mentioned. I posted on the Philco group that Greg and I belong to, that would be chatting with him, and mentioned his book. And one of the fellows chimed in today that yes, he saw something. I believe he put a link into the. Apparently, the program is available through the PBS website that she was discussed in. So he's a character. I mean, he's also written a book on like competitive eating. So it's kind of this dichotomy of
Competitive eating.
in his but I mean, yeah, I mean,
Is that like
Must be-
full
sounds like fun
contact
to
or-
me.
Is that like Nathan's hot dog contest?
Yes, I think that is like yes. It's an interesting thing. I mean, I'm sure a psychologist could have a party with it, but it's one of those things. It's both compelling but yet revulsive at the same time.
Yeah.
It really appeals to your gut.
Well,
Joey
after a couple of hot
Chestnut's-
dogs, I'm out.
Yeah, and with that bad pun, maybe it is time. No, that's not really a pun, but anyway. Well, thanks for all coming, guys. I'm glad you got to see Jason, and take a look at the book if you haven't read it, and we'll do it again in a couple of weeks. We'll be in touch with the latest and greatest, what's on the upcoming Zooms. John, do we have I don't recall if we've exchanged messages. Do we have a prospect on the horizon for the next Zoom, or are we still cooking one up?
Well, we have a couple of prospects that I'm working through. One of which is that we all know that Noah has quite the collection of.
Oh,
goodies.
yes, we
So
discussed
you
that.
Get him to do a walk through one of his rooms, which one room alone would be more than enough to do a meeting, and maybe do it as a series of shows if he's up for it. I think he's just coming back from vacation, so it wasn't going to work anyway for this slot, as I recall. But so he might be slotted for the next 2 weeks. But I have to reach out to him and see. And if it's not that, we have another thing cooking in the background is our own Greg Van Beek has a couple of videos he does with his collection, so we can sort of watch the videos. He has on his own personal YouTube, and I think he's already presented it to other clubs. We would get a chance to see his collection at a nice pace, because he has a lot of nice pieces. We've obviously seen some samples from prior shows.
And one could be a live tour down here too.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So we might do a live tour. I don't want to put too much with you, Greg. It's just I don't want to make it too much of a repetitive process, so that you do what you feel like you're up for doing. Otherwise, we watch the video.
Yeah, we can do part 2 of the video.
That would be.
I have a
great.
question for Paul if he's there real quick.
Yes.
Did the FedEx truck pay you a visit today?
Yes, yes. I sent you something in the chat. So yes, it arrived, and it was pouring up here today, off and on.
Oh,
And it was a weird rain too, because it was just, you go 10 miles inland, it was showery. You go 10 miles the other way, it was like a fire hose. So it was a little damp. The guy didn't have the brains to put it, a bag over it or anything. But you pack well, and I'm sure the contents are fine. So I appreciate it, and thank you. It did arrive. I've
good.
been a
It
little
wasn't a
swamped this.
plastic bag. So,
That's perfect, because it just
Yeah.
like a little bit of the bottom of the box was wet. So I'm sure it's fine. And this weekend, hopefully, I'll get a little time to play around with it and put it with my other Zenith AM FMs.
good.
I don't know, they're small sets, but I have to say those little 7 tube chassis. We have this very low power. Well, it's a low power AM too. 740 out of Boston is 250 daytime watts. At night he's 5, and he has a tiny little FM that he broadcasts with as well on the same tower. So within about 10 or 15 miles of Boston, you can pick it up. It's almost
Oh.
impossible on most quote unquote modern sets. I can get it on my Yamaha receiver, but a lot of radios, it just eludes them. These little Zeniths seem to pick it up quite well. So
Well,
it's
hopefully.
granted, it is what it is. It's a later model AM FM set, but I've had good luck with their sensitivity, and they're fun because they're small enough that I can put them all over, different rooms in the house. They don't take up a lot of room. And
Greg,
don't,
I have a
Yes.
question.
Okay.
What's the model of that Atwater Kent that's sitting on the upper shelf?
This one here,
Yeah,
that's a Model 40.
a Model 40.
28. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a Model 44,
Oh, okay.
and I can receive the station that he was just talking about just fine.
Oh, good.
Where are you based, Per? What town?
Brighton. part
Brighton,
of
Mass.
Boston. Yeah.
Oh, you're
part
in
of-
Brighton. Oh, okay.
Oh, you're right. You're right down close there. We used to go to Brighton all the time. My son went to St. Paul's for a couple of years, so
Oh, really?
I know your neighborhood quite well.
Mhm.
I'm just surprised, Parrot, that you didn't choose to settle in Hudson.
Well, I had to settle in Brighton because when I was a kid during World War II, my father had a job in Rochester, and we lived in the neighborhood of Rochester called Brighton. So,
Oh,
Interesting.
okay.
So
I
you
just
spent
felt like
you had to find a similar one. I get it.
yeah, that's
I
right.
get it.
Well,
Busy
and
part of
John was-
town over there.
John was mentioning that you have a Brookfield out there and then Burlington. Those are cities right here in Wisconsin. They're suburbs of
Yeah,
Milwaukee.
there's a lot of repeaters. A lot
Yeah.
of names get repeated, even within states, amazingly. So yeah. All right, well, gentlemen, I'm going to run along here, and I have to go get ready to face another day. So have fun on the net tomorrow, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
That's right. Thanks, everybody. It was a great show. Good stuff show.
Yeah.
Good stories. We really appreciate it.
All right, you guys take care. We'll see you.
Jordan, thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
Enjoy your
Take
weekend.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.